What's good, y'all? Congratulations to the Boston Celtics. They are officially the 2024 NBA Champions. Let's give a quick round of applause for them. It took 5 games for the Boston Celtics to defeat the Dallas Mavericks, and besides Game 4, it was a very dominant showing by the Celtics. I think a lot of people, myself included, kind of overthought this matchup before it began. It was coming off of the great run the Dallas Mavericks had throughout the Western Conference, beating 3 50-win teams. They had a lot of great competition leading up to the finals versus the Celtics. Luka was in best in the world talks. People were saying he was the #1 guy in all of basketball. I was kind of believing it a little bit too. I got caught up in this recency bias. And while this was all happening on the West to really make the Mavs get really boosted up in this, out east for the Celtics, they were versing an injured Miami Heat team. They lost a game and it wasn't looking too dominant. Same thing in the second round. They versed a injured Cavs team. They lost one of those games where they did not look dominant. Even in the conference finals where they swept the Indiana Pacers, 3 out of those 4 games were looking like the Pacers might pull it out within the last few minutes. Obviously, it didn't end up happening. They made it to the finals and seemed like they had a disappointing playoffs. So while the Dallas Mavericks were boosting up, the Boston Celtics were just falling in their stock. And I think that led a lot of people to kind of just get caught up on the moment and say, yeah, the Dallas Mavericks, they can take down Goliath. Let's go, David. People love to cheer for an underdog. I get it. It definitely was part of it. But, man, the Celtics are one of the most dominant teams we've seen. It really just is all around perfect roster construction from Brad Stevens and the Celtics, so shout out to them. They literally have everything you need in today's day and age to win an NBA championship. They have 2 All-NBA caliber wings. Of course, Jason Tatum was All-NBA first team this season. Jaylen Brown, I believe, was the first or second guy left off the list. They have 2 all-defensive guards in Derek White and Jrue Holiday. Both guys are some of the best perimeter defenders in the entire league. They play bigger than what they are. They got shooting involved as well. They're great IQ players. And then to wrap it, a little cherry on top, they have the luxury of having 2 great two-way stretch bigs in Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis that can impact the game defensively while also stretching the floor and keeping that offense super fluid. And if you're keeping tally, that gives them 5 all-star caliber players. I'm kind of using that term slightly, a little bit loose, but still, they have 5 great players on their team. And then when you include Al Horford in this and you open that up, that means they have 6 top 75 to top 100-ish players in the NBA. And even the guys like around the edges fit perfectly. You got Sam Hauser, who's one of the best 3-point shooters in the league, a great 3-and-D guy. I've really been seeing him increase his effort on defense, which is a big thing at least. Peyton Pritchard too can bring some shooting off of your bench like that. It's being a quick little spark plug. We saw him hitting half-court shots in the NBA Finals. They really just have insanely perfect roster construction, and I know there's a lot of things being thrown around. Are they a super team? Are they this? I don't think they're a super team. When I think super team, I think you have 3 top 20, top 25 players on your roster, and then not a lot of depth because obviously you're super top heavy. This team is the complete opposite. They have high quality players throughout their whole rotation. And that's only looking at their roster on paper. When you look at the results that they put up this season, they are truly one of the most dominant teams we've seen. 64-18 record, by far the best record in the entire NBA, Eastern Conference, Western Conference, whatever it is. They lacked the whole competition. They were first in offense, 3rd in defense. They went 16-3 in the playoffs, including 10 straight wins. Like they check all of the boxes, really. So that's my way of giving flowers to the Celtics and also apologizing for not taking you guys seriously, I guess, or getting caught up in the moment and picking the Mavericks. Yeah, that was definitely a mistake on my fault. You guys just straight dominated. And now to talk about the actual basketball that happened during it, I'm going to start off by the Finals MVP because there was a lot of dialogue going on around this. Would it be Jason Tatum? Would it be Jaylen Brown? There were some sleeper picks of Jrue Holiday or Kristaps Porzingis after one game. A lot of people didn't know who was going to. It ended up going to Jaylen Brown, which, again, a quick round of applause to him, going from one of the guys that was labeled as overrated and overpaid and all of these things. Can he be a number 2 guy? Should he get traded to get his own team? Whatever it was. All these narratives talking around him. And now he is a Finals MVP. He was the Celtics' most consistent scorer throughout the finals by a pretty decent margin. He had a good scoring outage in pretty much all these games except Game 4, but no one on the Celtics really had a good Game 4, so I won't hold that against him. But also his defensive impact was super important to the Celtics winning this finals. He was matching up against Luka Doncic a lot of the time, sometimes Kyrie Irving, and you could see he was taking a lot of pride in stopping these guys and making them work. He picked both of them a few times, which you don't really say often about Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, two of the most prolific scorers in today's NBA, and Jaylen Brown was sitting down in that chair, got a few steals, got a few stops, and then was going out there and scoring consistently. Averaging 21, 5, and 5 is pretty good, and then when you include those defensive stats, he averaged over a steal and a half per game and almost a full block as well. The shooting splits were a little bit down, but pretty much everyone on both teams, their shooting splits were a little down. I definitely think Jaylen Brown deserves this finals MVP. I was still a little shocked, I won't lie, when they officially announced it. Since it was so close with him and Jason Tatum, I thought they may just lean Jason Tatum as like the more star level player, but they did give it to Jaylen Brown, and I'm very happy for him, so shout out to JB. And that's a perfect transition to talk about Jason Tatum, who was a very close second for me for finals MVP. I want to really give him his flowers because a lot of people, I feel like, don't realize how close he was to winning this finals MVP, and they're just looking for any way to clown him in this moment. But he really did play a great finals, if you ask me. Jason Tatum's playmaking was incredible in all 5 of these games. He was basically acting as the Celtics point guard. He would get the ball, dribble it up court, go into the paint, get the defense shifting, make the read from there, then the ball movement would go, and the Celtics would get in their offense in that way. A lot of people like to focus on his scoring struggles, and yes, he was very bad in those first 2 games, but him being able to still impact the game at this high level with his playmaking, with his rebounding, with his defense is a big improvement for Jason Tatum. If you look back 2 years ago when they were in the finals, he was struggling to score, and when he was out there, you could tell that he was struggling, you could tell that it made the Celtics struggle, and they ultimately lost that series to the Warriors. Fast forward 2 years now, and they won. Even though he was still struggling to score, they were able to win because he figured out ways to impact the game other than just scoring the ball. And even when you look at him having these big struggles and shooting very poorly, still, games 1 and 2, very bad. There's no really defending that. Game 3, he was great. He dropped an efficient 30 points in that game. Game 4, like I said with Jaylen Brown, almost everyone on the Celtics had a bad game, so I'm not going to hold that against him. And then in this closeout Game 5, he was elite, especially in the first half. He was shooting over 50% from the field, almost had a double-double with assists in the first half. Like, he had an incredible Game 5 to close it out, to win this. Had a few tough and one finishes. He was getting the crowd hype, attacking the basket hard. That's the Jason Tatum I love to see when he's getting to the rim and getting those easy buckets to get himself going. Then he can knock down the 3. Then he can hit a mid-range fade. Then he can, still get his teammates involved other way. On the series, he ended up averaging 22 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, while shooting 39% from field and 26% from 3. Again, efficiencies are a little ugly, but 22, 7, and 8, those are not numbers to laugh about. Shout out to Jason Tatum, definitely a close second for Finals MVP. And while we're on the topic of runner-ups for Finals MVP, I might as well give my shout out to Jrue Holiday because, wow, he had an incredible series. Shout out to 2-time champ Jrue Holiday. He just defensively impacted the game incredibly well. But then beyond that, offensively, just his seamless off-ball scoring was absolutely incredible. Whether it was, spotting up for 3, catch and shoot, knockdown, attacking those closeouts to get to the rim, cutting to the rim, and then just being right place, right time, easy layup, sitting in the dunker spot, again, right place, right time for an easy layup. He was just effortlessly scoring and doing all the little things that the Celtics needed, and he had an incredible series. He averaged 14 points, 7 rebounds at the guard position. I've mentioned before, the Celtics really, he's listed at guard, but they use him as a forward, and you can see that with his rebound numbers. And then 4 assists on that as well. Shooting incredibly efficient, 54% from the field and 42% from 3. Jrue Holiday is a winning player. And then beyond that, shout out the former Knick, Kristaps Porzingis, had an incredible game one. Really looked like he could maybe even win Finals MVP. He went down with the injury, missed a few games, was able to fight back and play in this closeout game 5. Shout out to you, Kristaps. Happy that you're finally a champ. Al Horford is another guy that I am very happy he is finally a champ. I think they said he was the 3rd longest tenured player in the history of the NBA to win a championship, or to win his first championship. I said that weird. It took him 17 years to win a championship, and he finally did. If you ask me, certified Hall of Fame, stamp it right now. Welcome to the Hall of Fame, Al Horford. And then last but not least, Derek White, one of the best, if not the absolute best role player in the NBA. His defensive impact, his shooting, his playmaking as a secondary ball handler, all around, kind of like Jrue Holiday, he was doing all the little things the Celtics need to win this championship, and he very much deserves it as well. And something that I don't think enough people are talking about, and that kind of scares me as a Knicks fan and a guy that's out east, the Celtics, they were able to win this championship while their best player, Jason Tatum, did not have his best series. I was just saying, he had a good series, nowhere near his best. Kristaps Porzingis, arguably their 3rd best player, was banged up for majority of the playoffs, and they still made it to the finals. Then in the finals, he got even more banged up. They were still able to win it handedly in just 5 games. And almost all of these guys are under contract. The only guy that I don't think is under contract for the next 2 to 3 years is Derek White. I'm sure they'll figure it out. It looks like this core is sticking together. It looks like this core can get even better, and it's very scary for me. But as you guys know, there's always 2 sides to every story. The Celtics, they were on the winning side, luckily for them. Now we gotta switch sides though and talk about the Dallas Mavericks losing this finals, and this game 5 particularly. I was super disappointed with how they came out in game 5 after blowing out the Celtics by damn near 40 points, to come back and then now get blown out yourself with your back against the wall. Very, very, very disappointing. Luka Doncic, I want to start off by talking about him. Game 5, he was disappointing with pretty much all of the rest of them, the Mavs. I don't want to get too much onto him because he was one of the only guys that consistently showed up offensively and was able to give them a punch. He already has such a big workload for the Dallas Mavericks. He has to do all these things, scoring, playmaking, rebounding. The Celtics were making sure he had to defend as well. So I don't want to get too much on Luka. But there are a few things that really bothered me watching these series. Game 1 and especially Game 2, Luka was horrible, horrendous, atrocious, whatever word you want to put it. That's what he was on defense. Just getting blown by, and then he wouldn't rush to rotate, so then that guy will be open, force another team, and it was just scramble mode from there. Horrible defense in Game 1 and Game 2. Then in Game 3, where the Mavs looked like they could maybe pull it out at home, Luka fouls out in a close, I think it was like a 2 or 3 point game at that time with 3 minutes left. Fouls out. What are you doing, Luka? After Game 3, it definitely got better, but I really do think that Luka has to look in the mirror and ask himself what kind of player he wants to be remembered as if he wants to truly sacrifice everything it takes to win a championship and do all of these things. Just look in the mirror and see if he can fix these glaring issues that he has, because he is an incredible player, top 3 in the world, undoubtedly, if you ask me. But you have to get your conditioning up so you can go out there and play high effort defense. You don't even have to say high level defense, just high effort defense. You can play that James Harden style where you're not out there shifting your feet and everything, but you know how to use your body to body up, stay in front of the man. I'm not asking you to clamp out there like Jrue Holiday, but I need you to be average at least. And then again, I mentioned it before, arguing with the refs, not getting back on defense, where he thinks he gets the call, he lays on the ground for a little extra second, or he's running back, talking to the ref over here. Jason Tatum's already down the court for an open layup. Those are the things that, it seems like it's not too big of a deal for your star player. Everyone slacks off on defense every once in a while. When you want to win the NBA championship, you need to lock in 1,000%. Kyrie Irving was super, super, super disappointing in this series as well. He was nowhere near the, a super efficient, high-level scorer we all know him as. Nothing like that. In this series, he averaged 20 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, while only shooting 41% from the field and 28% from 3. That doesn't sound like the Kyrie Irving I know. And those numbers look a little bit better than what the story actually is, because when he played in Dallas, he did play a lot better. His numbers boosted up. You know, game 4, he dropped 30 plus, by far his best game in the finals. But when you look at the 3 games he played in Boston, he dropped 12 points, 16 points, and 15 points. In all 3 of these games, he shot below 40% from the field. You're just not going to win a game, let alone a finals game, when your second option is putting up numbers like that, if we're just being 100% honest. And I know it definitely is tough for Kyrie, because every single time he touched the ball, Boston was giving him the boo birds. They were going out there yelling, you know, Kyrie sucks, Kyrie sucks. They were doing it all. In this last game 5, he dove into the stands to save a ball, and he was looking back like a fan said some crazy stuff to him. So I'm sure it was very difficult to stay locked in and everything. Regardless, though, super disappointing, Kyrie. PJ Washington and Derrick Jones Jr. just completely forgot how to shoot the basketball in this series. PJ averaged 10 points per game while shooting 27% from 3, while Derrick Jones Jr. averaged 6 points per game while shooting 25% from 3. Very lackluster performance from your 2 starting wings, your 2 guys that were some of the biggest reasons you've made it this far in the playoffs, for them to completely just not be able to knock down a shot. Very disappointing. You guys see the trend here? Dereck Lively finally looked like a rookie for one of the first times in his career, for the first time of his playoffs career for sure. You know, he just had some times where he couldn't catch the ball, couldn't finish. He had some stupid turnovers throughout the series. Just all around didn't look like the high level impact rookie that he looked like throughout this whole season. He had a good game 3 and game 4, but when you look at games 1, 2, and 5, he had 2 points in all 3 of those games and single-digit rebounds in all 3 of those games. Again, super disappointing when he was one of the biggest reasons the Mavericks made it this far. And just all around, the Mavericks looked outmatched from a talent perspective. A lot of times their defense was just scrambling, and that played right into the Celtics' hands. I want to give them credit for that, because they are a great ball movement team, they're a great shooting team, and that's exactly how you beat a defense that wants to scramble and rotate and help and do all these things. You know, the Celtics, they just had their number, so shout out to the Celtics. The Mavericks, though, I do think you guys are building something here. I think you kind of got a little bit of a formula. Again, a lot of these guys came in and had disappointing performances. If they played how they played throughout the playoffs and throughout the regular season, we might be talking about a little bit of a different series here, but I think the Mavericks have the blueprint for how to win with Luka Doncic. And before we get out of here, I do want to thank you guys for all of your support throughout this NBA season. This marks the end of my first official full NBA season that I covered. I started making basketball videos a little over a year and a half ago now, but this is the first time that I started from the off season, throughout the whole regular season, through the playoffs, and now to the end of the finals. Thank you guys so much for all the support. We've grown a lot as a channel, as a community, and I couldn't do this without you guys. So again, thank you so much for your support. This is only the beginning, though. I'm coming through a lot of good, great ideas coming this off season. I got some IRL basketball videos coming. I got some free agency stuff. I got some draft stuff, some preseason previews. I'm bringing those back bigger and better than ever. You guys do not want to miss it for sure. So if you aren't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And of course, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave it a like, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the description, there's links to all my social medias, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch y'all.